Hello and welcome to my bedroom floor. But most of all, welcome to this book planning session that I'm going to be carrying out in the next few days. Hopefully I don't take too long. If you're new here, my name is Marina and I'm a storytelling teacher and an aspiring author who is attempting to write a first draft of a book in the next 3 months. It is currently the month of June. It is the 18th today. It's actually my name day. If you've seen my previous video, you would know that I want to attempt to write a first draft of a book in the next 3 months. And that is why I don't have that much time during the year because of the academic year, calendar, blah, blah, and all that. If you want to know more, I'll put that thingy that for some reason content creators never seem to know where it goes, here or there. The idea that I'm going to try and develop in this period of time is a standalone adult fantasy novel that goes by the code name of Project Heist. And ooh, what a mysterious name. I wonder what the book is going to be about. Yes, there is a heist, but there is so much more to it, or I want there to be so much more to it. I just couldn't think of a better name because honestly, since the moment that I had the first spark of inspiration for this book, I have been thinking about it as Project Heist, and that is what it's going to be. I promise the final title will be a lot better than that. So the goal here would be to write between 70 and 80,000 words for this first draft. I would like to have some room to expand the universe and make it more rich and everything, like I was talking about in the previous video. So I'm trying this new approach for this specific project where because I struggle to finish first drafts, I am aiming to create this like the skeleton of the novel and then go back and add more nuance and more detail to it because it's something I don't find quite as challenging as getting the story done and down on paper. So I'm going to focus on the challenging part and try and do the easier bits later because I feel like that's going to be a lot more enjoyable once I've faced the first big challenge to go and do what I enjoy most. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'll keep you updated. And I called the previous video chapter 1 of writing Project Heist, and I'm going to call this one chapter 2. The reason for that is that I want this to be a whole series of me documenting the writing of this book that I hope is going to become a reality at some point. And I figured that was a really good way to motivate me and actually try and deliver results within the deadlines. Not that I'm going to show that first draft to anyone until I've edited it and gone through it a bunch of times. But at the very least, I am now probably too embarrassed to not show up at the end of September and say, hey, I did it, I made it. Because it would feel like a bit of a shame to tell the internet, even if nobody ever watches these videos, I will have posted them and I will have promised to the camera that I am going to finish that draft. So that's a reason that is big enough for me to try and attempt this challenge with all of my energy and all of my willpower. So like I was saying, it is today the 18th of June, which means I don't have a lot of time to do much planning before July starts and I have to buckle down and start writing, which means that if I'm going to do any preparation for this draft, it has to be now. It has to happen in the next few days. Can I count? I can count. I promise I can count. How many days is that? There are 13 days left in this month, so that means that's all I have to try and prepare before I start writing. There are 6 things that I want to make sure are ready by the 1st of July. The first one is an outline, a loose outline, because I tend a little bit more towards discovery writing, but I am trying to plan a bit more so that I don't get blocked in the moments of this challenge that I might be a bit more stressed or tired or busy or whatever. I did specifically choose this period of the summer because as a teacher I have less workload in July, August and September, beginning of September anyway. The end of September is going to be madness probably because it's going to be the beginning of the academic course mixed with the end of this challenge. So I'm going to make a big effort, but at least I'm going to try and do well the first 2.5 months of this project that I'm doing. So yeah, let's see how that goes. The second thing I want to do is create a mood board. The third one is a music playlist, and both of those are just for pure inspiration and getting in the headspace for the story. I also want to select a couple of books to read and a few movies to watch. More than anything, I'm not a heist specialist. That would be kind of cool, but it's not the case. So I would like to just like imbue myself with, whoa, I almost threw away the tablet. I would like to try and get in like a heisty mood. And other than carrying out a heist myself, which would be totally unacceptable for a lawful individual like myself, I just want to try and throughout the spirit consume a little bit of content of this type so that I can get some inspiration and like learn some of like the rules or the archetypes or the tropes of the genre. How am I doing so far with these things? I have not started the mood board or the playlist. I have not watched any movie or read any books about this topic. I don't think I will have much time. I am a pretty slow reader, and I have a lot of assignments to correct before the end of the course because the course doesn't end until the end of June. So as you can see, my timeline is a little bit limited, but that's why I'm attempting to do this thing in such a proper way, if you can call this proper, in such an organized way, very out of character for myself, because I like to wing it when it comes to writing. I find it the most fun and I find it the most fulfilling, but it turns out that when life is a little bit all over the place, it's hard to focus and work on the one thing consistently for a really long time, or consistently enough that you end up with a finished product that you can present to publishers or agents. So because that's what I want, I do have to do a few things that maybe don't suit my personality in the best way, but I really like trying new routines and new strategies, and I always love seeing and hearing about other people's ways. And so this time I'm trying to incorporate this, that even if it doesn't sound much like me, I reckon it can be a good idea if we try and do it, with a positive attitude. And also an iced tea, because it is so hot today. I think there's a heat wave at the moment. It's just so stuffy and sweaty, and it's really hard to think. And I reckon it's going to be a little difficult to create, but it's a good excuse to go to cafes with very strong aircon at the moment. Okay, so in the next few days, I'm going to try and attempt to prepare all of these little things that I just mentioned. So if you want to come along with me, I will be really happy to have you around. Today, I probably won't do anything else, but I might. If I do, I will film it, because even though I'm really sleepy and it's really hard, I do need to go back to my corrections because I do need to submit them before the end of the month. That's work, so it needs to be done before anything else. But I also think that once I've completed all the assignment corrections, my brain will be a lot more rested and a lot less stressed, and I will be more able to create, I hope, if the heat allows it. Okay, so we have a very hot tea and a very hot weather. And if you're wondering why I'm having a hot beverage in a very hot day, it's because my brain doesn't work properly because of the heat. And that's what's causing all this trouble. Let's do a little bit of balance of this chapter 2 of this challenge that I'm attempting to do. It's been a week since I started filming this vlog, and in these days what I've done is completed the mood board. That took like 20 minutes. That was pretty easy. Didn't really make a full-on playlist, but I added an hour-long video that contains the kind of instrumental music that I usually like for writing, because like I was saying, I cannot really write with voice or lyrics because I get really distracted. So I'm going to take that off, even though it's not like a very well curated playlist. It's a playlist that I can turn on and then write to it. I think it's gonna work because it's already worked out for the first rough words that I wrote for this book. I haven't actually officially started writing, but before I decided to turn it into a full-on project, I did a bit of fiddling with the different POVs and different characters. I wrote like a tiny bit from each character's perspective, just to make sure, just as a test, just to make sure that I was interested and invested enough in these people, and that they had distinct enough voices so that I could make like a group of voices with all of them combined. And I was quite satisfied with the results, so we are going for it. So that's how I know that this particular 1 hour long video works really well for that. And I don't know if you guys use this type of 1 hour long music videos for writing that you can find on YouTube, but lately I've been struggling to find non-AI made videos of this kind. And whenever I find one, and there's not really any way that I can make sure they are not made by AI or through AI or using AI, but whenever it seems like they are human-made, I make sure to save them and add them to my playlist because they are becoming increasingly hard to find. My list of books and movies that are thematically relevant for this project is also completed, but I probably won't have time to read them or watch them before I start writing, because I am supposed to start writing in about 5 or 6 days. 5, I think. But even if I cannot fully submerge myself into this like ambient spirit of time theme kind of vibe, etc., I am happy that I have now this like backlog that I can go back to if I do need that inspiration, and if I need to instantly put myself into this world. I think it will work out as a strategy. I can't really be sure because this is not the usual way I do things, and it's not my usual approach to writing, but I believe that every project calls for a different process, and this is just what's feeling right at the moment. And if it doesn't end up feeling useful, I will just not use the tool, or I will just change as I go, and that's totally fine. We're just here to try and to see what works best for this particular instance. Some good news about my planning: I sat down to look at my calendar and it was pretty empty for the whole summer. Which makes it sound really boring, but I mean, in terms of work, there's not that much I have to do, which is really great. There are things that I have to do, but there's no like hardcore deadlines in the upcoming months, so that's incredible. There will be for sure things in September because that's when the academic year starts again. I won't know until the semester approaches, but for now, let us not worry about that. And that will be the third and last month of the time that I've allocated for writing this first draft. So hopefully I will have done really well in months 1 and 2, and I won't have to worry about anything because I will be perfectly on track. And that is going to happen. Okay, so the strangest thing that I found out so far about my process, I suppose, is that I'm not minding doing an outline. I always claim that I'm such a discovery writer because that is what I believe, or believed until recently. But because I was getting a little bit blocked in the last few projects that I was doing, I thought maybe I might try to just create a little bit of a loose outline that can help me in moments of like roadblock or stress or being tired. And it is working pretty well in the way that it's being really fun. I'm having a lot of fun describing the different plot points and the different twists and turns, and also the character arcs, even though that's a bit of a different kind of document, or like a bit of a different planning strategy. But I just didn't think this was a fun thing to do, because I always believed that if I told myself the story first, it wouldn't be exciting and interesting to then write it, because I already know that story, so why the hell am I trying to discover it again? Well, turns out that if you are vague enough with the major plot points and you don't go into too much detail, and try and create the whole of the world building ahead of time, it might just be that it's a useful roadmap and a guideline and not so much of a strict structure that you have to stick to. As a storytelling teacher, I do study and teach this type of tools and this type of strategies, but it is always good to go back to them and see them from a different perspective and see them applied to different things, because in the way that I teach them, in the degree that I teach them, it is applied to communications, to design, to advertising. So the scope is different and the purpose is different, because the outcome for these students is not to have a novel at the end of the course, it's to have the ability to create communications campaigns and marketing campaigns, and to make use of storytelling as a powerful tool to create compelling stories and be as engaging as possible with the audience. And so far, I'm not sticking to one particular type of story structure, because I want to play around and see how I go. I have in the past tried to use the Save the Cat Writes a Novel story structure, which is very, very helpful, but ultimately I found it a bit too constricting and a little bit too structured. I know that sounds silly, because it is a type of story structure, but for me, who likes to wing it a bit more and who likes to be a bit of a pantser, it did feel a little bit too strict and it removed part of the fun. So what I'm doing now is absorbing all the information that I can get from all of these different types of structures and try to create my own in a more organic way that fits my way of writing and plotting a little better. You might have seen images of me writing in an actual freaking castle, which was incredible. It was really fun, because we went away for a few days and there's these buildings all around Spain that are like old convents, old castles, and old like monasteries. They've been fixed up a bit and turned into hotels so that people can stay in these like incredible locations, and it's very chill because there's not really much around, and at least in the one that we went to. So it was really good for the creative part of my brain to get away for a few days and see the different landscape. And really, it was very, very hot, and there was not much of a chance to do anything because we were like around 40 degrees Celsius every single day, which limited the ability to move around and walk and all that, because it was just terrible. It was just too much. At those temperatures, you end up just feeling really lethargic, and it's a little bit hard to do anything other than just existing. But for the purposes of sitting down and brainstorming a new novel, it was actually pretty cool. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but it is the 25th of June today, which means we are only 5 days away from starting this challenge. 1st of July will be the first day that I sit in front of my laptop or my tablet and I start typing. Other than those little snippets that I was telling you about that I was using as like a bit of a trial to see if I was into the story or not, but that was only about 2,000 words, so it won't really count much for the total. So just with a little bit of tweaking of the outline in the next few days, we will conclude the planning phase of this challenge. So if you want to join me in this challenge, please feel free to do so. It would be so incredibly cool to have someone else doing it with me, and that way we could keep each other accountable, and I would love to know more about your projects and about how you develop your process and how you approach writing a novel. Thank you for coming with me in this journey, and I will see you in chapter 3.